Exceptional Radio.
I feel like the news has been pretty chill the last couple days. Which is weird. It's like the holiday season is kicking into gear and everyone's going and actually doing shit.
But also, it seems like Black Friday didn't work this year,
Black Friday didn't even happen.
right? For all intents and purposes, it did not
It
happen.
went straight to Cyber Monday, and I'm not even sure if that actually happened. I mean, I was still getting like Cyber Monday deals, like, in December.
I saw a Black Friday deal that I ended up getting, but it was on like the Wednesday after, so it wasn't even Cyber Monday. They were calling it a Black Friday deal, where I'm like, what's the definition of a Black Friday deal now? If it's like a Wednesday after or the month, because they were also advertising it the whole month before on Amazon. Like, get your Black Friday deal, and it's like the fucking first week of November. And I'm like, this feels like you guys don't understand what these words mean anymore.
I mean, I know they can't call it like Black November. Mostly because, like, October's month is definitely black and orange.
But I don't know if they can even call it black anymore because they're not getting into the black.
No, they're not. Or maybe they're always in the black and they're somehow getting some weird deal or making money off of advertisements through their own platform to get people to buy stuff. Like, they don't even need to sell anything. They just get enough traffic that it pays the bills.
Well, okay. I don't know if that like
So cynical.
that like dollar Chinese brand or like Chinese made plastic nonsense that's
Well,
like
the black label stuff.
not even like knockoff stuff, but I mean like the stuff in bins at Walmart that's like, they bought it for like a penny and they sell it for $1 or whatever. It feels like Americans aren't even falling for that shit anymore.
Yeah, they buy stuffed animals by the pound and
Exactly. Yeah, shit like that. Exactly. Or like little Matchbox cars that aren't actually Matchbox or Hot Wheels, but like
and
they're
just
still cars.
They're slightly wide enough that they don't fit in the cases.
Well, and then they have these people now on TikTok that are they're selling them through live broadcasting, and now there's live broadcasting on eBay, but it's like the warehouses are just selling directly to Americans now, and it's like showing how they package it up and showing their factories and shit. So I think what's also happened is now Americans know that all the shit was coming from China. So now if Chinese factories are like, hey, we'll make it and we'll not like make it shitty and we'll still sell it to you for cheap and you don't have to buy it from Walmart, you just have to buy 100 at a time. And then people are like, okay. And there's this weird, because I don't even think they're necessarily for resellers. There's this weird market of people who are like willing to buy things directly from China, knowing that it's going to take like a month and a half or 2 months to get there, but they don't care. And like, I've been that person before. And then even in the process, I know that the price I paid not only was worth it, it was like the best price I could possibly get. I just had to fucking wait, because then I could buy that thing from somewhere in America. It was just gonna be double the price, if not quadruple the price.
So I just looked up aluminum fishing boat on Alibaba, and the first thing that pops up is a 25 foot, so 7.5 meter welded aluminum fishing boat with walk around pilot house. 25-foot boat's pretty long. They're asking for 30,900, minimum order of one. I just watched a sportsman's boating show, or a video from a sportsman's boating show taking place out in the Pacific Northwest. Like, I'm not sure where. Might as well be Oregon. But this boat, they had something like this boat. It was $220,000.
So even with the shipping and the tariffs, you're still gonna be,
Even with the shipping and the tariffs and having to buy
yeah,
2 or 3 outboard motors,
that's crazy.
You're still coming in way less than half of what a regional distributor who goes the route of buying 20 of these things to try it and sell. Like, even if it's a full tariff or the full 100%, which it's not. I think it's only like 30% or 25% or 28%. Who knows? It's not that much. It's not 100%. Even if it was 100%, it's still less than half of the cost of this boat. I'm sure that there are some minor differences, but this thing looks pretty close to like nearly identical to what I saw in a video last night. Here is a fully welded 18-foot bass boat for $1,200 to $1,800. That's normally like a $20,000 boat, $30,000 boat once you start adding the motor and all the other stuff. Yeah, that's here's a 20-foot boat for $16,900. This one's got it says Suzuki on the motor, but it's probably not actually a Suzuki. That's like $160,000 boat that I'm looking at right now.
So I'm thinking about the materials, and I'm like, on the one hand, it would seem like they would use cheap materials to get around those costs, but on the other hand, it it might not necessarily be that, which is where it might just be the scale at which they're able to produce.
I think that they're making they're making for American market and Australian market and European market and African market and South American. They're doing everyone's market, and they're just like, say, hey, we've got 20,000 of these or 200,000 of these. How many of these do you guys want? And then they're left over with some number after they've distributed, and they've got like 1,000 boats left, and then they're just like, okay, let's just get rid of these things. Yeah. And I bet most of them get consumed inside China, but the few that get shipped out because there's some individual in the United States who's like, yeah, I'll pay for all the extra fees to get one of these boats. I'll finish putting all the stuff on it. I'll take the big risk. Like, that person's clearly. That person's got $30,000 to $60,000 of just like money burning a hole in their pocket, obviously. But then again, for the person that's actually able to manage all of those things, I think that's actually the world we live in now. Like, all of the things that were available pre-economic pear-shaped madness. That stuff's still there. You just gotta do it yourself, and you gotta figure out how to navigate a completely foreign language and a similar but not quite the same, like foreign business style, and we got to manage. We have to manage the expectations that come with being American, and realize that yeah, we're no longer in charge. Not when somebody's selling us a boat for a tenth the cost, and all you got to do is figure out the rest. I'm serious. When I was watching that video about boats last night, I kept seeing these price tags. It's like, what the crap? These things cost as much as someone's house.
Yeah, there's just people that are living in a completely different world than you and I. And
Yeah,
it's funny when regular people fantasize about becoming that person and like vote and move in the sense of that they're going to become that person, not
that's
realizing
there's a name, the temporarily embarrassed millionaire.
the temporarily embarrassed what?
The temporarily embarrassed millionaire.
Oh, I mean, and even then, millionaires can't move like billionaires
Oh no,
or
not at
multimillionaires,
all.
and that's like the way that Americans are so far from that level of living, and there's only, I want to say there may be 2,000 people in the world that really move like that. Um, it's relatively a fucking handful of people, and so when you have so many hundreds of millions of people thinking that they're going to ascend to that, meanwhile, it's not enough of that to go around, let alone fucking Jim Bob, Billy Bob from fucking Bumblefuck is gonna become that, even though they're not willing to leave their home city. So the delusion of potential for upward mobility is obviously part of the American scam, but you really have to not think about a lot of things to keep believing it. Like you really have to, the way that you have to suspend disbelief watching a superhero movie is like you have to suspend a lot of the logical parts of your brain to think that a person's going to become that without some super compromising, probably.
Side effects.
No, not like side effects, like collateral
Sure.
damage. That's like, you've got like slave fucking sweatshops operating in other countries, or so. That's the only way that anybody's getting to that level ever. Like it was never. There's never been an ethical billionaire that didn't have some fucked up shit happen in the line of them becoming a billionaire. It didn't necessarily come from them, but somebody somewhere
Yeah.
down the line did some fucked up shit. Like it's not always a sweatshop though.
I think that like the Futurama, they have an episode, "The Problem with Poplars," where Leela discovers these things that just are delicious, and it turns out to be like the children, the hatchlings of uh, of like the monster creatures from Perseon Omicron Persei 8, and they're just like eating them like it's popcorn chicken. I don't think people care. It's like a level of social ethical evolution that's just not happening that quickly. I think people would
Well,
rather be like, from what I've gleaned, it seems like people would rather have money than be happy.
I mean, that's what the media wants you to believe, but I also think that there's only a really small, very parasitic part of humanity that actually wants to be that. And it's like the Bernie Madoffs, because then you look at Bernie
Yeah,
Madoff and it's like, yeah, he had 3 fucking yachts. Who needs 3 fucking yachts? One's not enough? What? Okay. I guess if
So
you want to sail in, you know, a fucking
you got to have one in the Mediterranean, and you got to have one in the Caribbean, and then you got to have one where Southeast Asia.
Well,
that seems like really dangerous.
I guess that's it if you want to keep them apart. But I was thinking this motherfucker's rolling like Christopher Columbus keeping a fleet, where he's like, I roll 3 deep all the time on the seas, like, you know, he was a pirate of sorts, so that I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if he was rolling in
Okay,
a
so if I had like
naval fleet.
if I had like 3 yachts and I was rolling 3 deep everywhere, I would really.
This motherfucker had a naval fleet.
I know.
That's a fucking.
I'm just trying to think. There's got to be some really cool like rope swing method to get from one boat to the next. I don't know. Maybe they can just extend some kind of like deck or something.
Yeah.
It's it's hard enough to coordinate like a small group of people. So like I on some level I'm actually it's like fuck bravo 3 boats, that means 3 crews. If they're all running together, that's organizing 3 crews like to hopefully work in some kind of harmony together. That's really
Well,
impressive.
you hire the captains. The captains do all that.
Well, sure, but it's still like there's like I got to
That's just like he just throws money at the captain. The captain's like the one that.
still bravo to those captains then for like putting
Yeah,
up with
that
crazy shit.
because that's the whole part is like it's so expensive because of the fact that they need crews and they need docks or covered ports or wherever they're kept. Like they they have to be maintained so much that it's like, yeah, it costs what, however much, but then it's going to cost tens of thousands, if not 100,000 per year for maintenance. And so that's why those things are like,
God, he had an 89-foot yacht.
you can buy, bro, here's the thing. You can buy used boats for very cheap because most guys that buy boats don't think about any of these things and they're always some sort of crisis. And so I remember one of my roommate had money to spare and he bought a boat and fucking 2 jet skis and like, yeah, it was fun at first, but then the shit started to break and then he only had 1 jet ski and then the boat was broken down and it needed repairs and it was like gonna cost half as much to repair as he paid for it. And so these things, it was like, okay, the fee to keep it at the dock and shit, it was like it quickly became a $3,400 investment in the boat was dwarfed by all the maintenance and all this shit just to keep it. So he had to just get rid of it. So it was like, you see how these things.
Yeah, if you don't have like first a vehicle that can transport a boat to and from a
Right.
lake, and
That's just part of it.
and
Yeah.
a place to store said truck, and a place to store said boat on your property, and like not just like outside underneath the fucking tree where it gets crapped on by everything all year round, but like actually stored maybe in like a rudimentary complex tent or an actual carport or its own garage or who knows. There's got to be something, but these things are like as precious as normal vehicles. They've got to be treated like that. Otherwise they just rot. And then who knows?
Yep.
You get into it, and all this, everything seems fine, and you hit some really nasty chop, and all of a sudden the whole transom in the back and just caves in, and then the thing fills with water. And I see videos of stuff like this happening all the time. Someone's like, took out my grandpa's boat for the first time in 30 years. Let's see how it runs. And
Oh,
like,
no.
and it's like, this
Oh,
thing's
God.
great, and then all of a sudden crash, and it's all over. Because that boat had sat for 30 years. Before it sat for 30 years, like. But at the same time, that's one of those things. Like, I don't think that. I think that there was a culture of like preserving things and like keeping them around and maintaining them but I don't know if that culture like extended after like past the 2000s because so many cars especially seem like they really weren't made to be maintained. And whenever I watch videos about construction techniques, because I got an old house, like how do I fix this old ass house? A lot of these new techniques are like they look cool. They're using a lot of materials, but a lot of this stuff has to be completely just destroyed if anyone ever has to get back inside that wall. So it's like, yeah, that's nice, assuming nothing ever happens. How often does nothing ever happen though? And I think that's the same with like computers, especially like modern laptops. I think maybe the last time I was able to open up a laptop and actually do something meaningful inside, it was like a decade ago, maybe. And then once the Ultrabook became the standard, it's like you can't get inside of a laptop for shit. Or you pay a premium for a laptop that allows you to get inside it and like do basic maintenance, or sometimes you can replace certain components. But 20 years ago, 20 years ago, I remember like removing optical drives and adding additional hard drives or expanded battery packs or changing out little modules to remove like the whatchamacallit,
Oh
the
yeah,
card reader so that it would be a different type of card reader. And they're like,
things were much more modifiable that back then.
oh
For sure.
man, I remember I had this ThinkPad, and I had like a backpack full of stuff that I could just quickly swap in and out to have various capabilities. It was amazing. The thing that's funny is that the computers have gotten a lot thinner, but I don't think the batteries, and I know that I read the batteries are supposed to be better, but whenever I use these computers the same way that I've always used them, I get the same 2 hours, 2.5 hours of runtime if it's not plugged in. I'm pretty sure that's what happens when you run laptops on like high performance power settings and let them run like unencumbered in the BIOS. I think
Well, yeah, I wonder if a lot of the power just goes to cooling. So,
I'm pretty sure that it is because like I know that been a lot of effort put into making like mobile processors and mobile GPUs and mobile RAM and all that stuff, so it uses less and less electricity and that kind of stuff. It only uses less electricity if you let it idle.
right,
But I'm pretty
yeah.
sure if you actually use the shit out of it like you're supposed to, it's just like running any processor at full tilt. It's going to produce a lot of heat, and you're going to spend a lot of energy trying to keep it cool. And
Well, and that's also assuming the person is not using Windows 11 and their CPU's just getting fucking eaten up constantly and spiking the wattage on the computer. So,
yeah, that's like for me that's like a quarterly what the hell's going on thing, and then everything kind of levels off.
oh, I'm so glad. I only have one Windows 11 computer, and that was on accident when I purchased it. It was like already installed. That was before the AI stuff dropped. But I'm so thankful that I've not upgraded any of my other machines to Windows 11. Um, it it's been fairly unusable most of the time. Sometimes you can like shut down a lot of the bloatware and super fetch, and like then it'll run like a normal computer. Um, but that's like once in a blue moon. So most of the time, this computer just sits off, and it's like I it got most of its worth, or it paid for itself when it during crypto mining. But it's one of those things I don't want to sell it to somebody else because I'd feel bad for them using it. But it works often enough that where I'm like, I don't I don't need to get rid of it. And again, it's it's not a sunk cost. It's paid for itself at this point. So
If
I
if
don't have
if
any ill feelings towards it. the machine itself.
If I had an extra gaming grade machine, what kind of GPU do you have for it?
It's a great GPU. It's a 3070, so it's
Damn,
like
that is a damn good GPU. So if
it.
I had just the venerable 3070 just laying around inside of a machine that could easily support it and had all this stuff to provide a decent gaming platform, what kind of processor is it? Is it Intel processor or an AMD processor?
It's Intel, but I think it's like i11.
Jesus. So I think
Windows 11 really fucking sucks is the issue.
yeah,
That's the big
man.
issue. It really sucks.
So if I just had an extra gaming machine laying around that had a 3070 in it, I would sell the whole thing and I would get an AMD based system.
Oh, sorry. It's an i7 1100
That's a
or
decent processor.
11700
That's probably a
KF.
really good processor. I bet that processor kicks serious ass. Actually, what I would
Yeah.
do in that case, no, I would still want to sell it all because the SteamOS is running great on AMD hardware and runs like crap on Intel hardware and on NVIDIA GPUs.
Bro, it's this. I'm looking at the specs. It's 32 gigs of RAM, 2 terabyte storage on an SSD. It's a great fucking machine.
Yeah,
But Windows 11 is
runs like
so
ass.
bad that it takes those specs and turns them into a brick. You can take a $2,000 machine and Windows 11 is like brick. And I don't want to try to switch over to Linux on it just because it might brick it even further where Windows has like they've done some bullshit where I saw a video literally Windows 11 deleted a dude's fucking Linux kernel when he created a dual boot. So like it forced him back on Windows 11 even though he installed Linux. So this is where I'm like I could install it, but I don't trust that these fuckers wouldn't do some shit to every person who tries to migrate to Linux. In that
Yeah.
what I found out um I don't know if you remember when you didn't have to do control alt delete to open like to unlock the computer. Like Windows added this quote unquote as a security measure because they wanted to keep control over the main kernel in the operating system. So they were forcing people to hit control alt delete. Well, then people started disabling it. Then these motherfuckers go in and disable the option to disable it because then they're like, "Oh, we think people were disabling it on accident." Like, no, motherfucker, nobody wants to like. Main thing being, you can't do it with fucking wireless controllers. So it was like it became an issue as to where I had to get a wired keyboard for my one machine until I figured out like some wizard fucking genius out there figured out how to turn the shit off in spite of Windows. And even when you turn it off, it like figures out how to turn it back itself back on ever so often.
So there's this. Yeah, I'm not even sure what to call it. It runs inside PowerShell, but it's called MicroWin, and it basically provides this like switches to turn off really annoying things like telemetry, because I don't know what software needs telemetry, but I'm pretty sure that production software doesn't require like telemetry to do anything, because when I turn off telemetry, none of my DAW software fucks up. None of my like broadcast stuff fucks up. The only thing that gets weird is like, Bonjour is like I can't connect to the Bonjour server. Well, yeah, I don't want you to call Apple and tell them anything, and they don't need to know anything.
The only people who need telemetry are fucking NASA and sim racers.
Yeah.
Like, I know tech
Maybe as
companies,
a citizen scientist, if I'm looking at data from a satellite and I want to get real deep, I want to know some extra details. Some telemetry is nice, but I don't need it. What am I
but
gonna
here,
do with it?
tech companies like tech companies need to stay the fuck out of my UI. I'm tired of like the idea that if I go into an ecosystem, I can't keep a consistent UI without the whim of the creator of that ecosystem and their like need to please the board or whoever's like, yeah, you need to roll out a new UI this fucking quarter. And it's the same thing with versioning where just because the year turns over doesn't mean a new version needs to come out. And they do it with software, they do it with games, they do it with hardware. And shit can't keep up. Like the market can't keep up anymore. So I'm glad that consumerism is dying. Um, but just the notion that tech needs to advance that constantly, or that user interfaces need to change that frequently, or how website design style is so fleeting, and everybody's always chasing the most current trend. It There's an art to making timeless things. It don't have to be a piece of clothing or a piece of visual art or a piece of music. Timelessness can be the goal for anything that people create, and it feels like most of the time they're just chasing the most recent trend, and that's why a lot of shit feels vapid and uncreative in the first place. But I don't think that there's the luxury for people to do that anymore. So I think that there's about to be a reckoning of people's willingness to push out crap.
And people's willingness to accept crap as output.
Yes. I think we're already past that. I
I
think
think people are always going to push out crap, no matter what
no.
tools
I
available.
mean
But
the accept.
yeah, the
I think
acceptance part.
that's where like just based on the Black Friday, and you know what? Okay,
Not just
here's
Black
a
Friday, the car market
no
is in
no no.
decline. The electric car
Yeah,
values are
everything's in
dropping like
decline.
fucking crazy. I was watching this video about the electric car market. Like, some of these things are losing 40% of their value like right away. People are trying to sell like I think it's like $120,000 Audi e-tron thing, and they're barely able to get $40,000 out of them. Like, these things are losing value like just instantly because nobody wants them for a multitude of reasons. Also, they're fucking expensive. Electric Audi just screams expensive, no matter who you are. Like,
Well, and on that note, Americans are starting to see the Chinese car market in electrics, and they know that American stuff is overpriced, and that the Chinese stuff is better at a better price point, and that it's only because of the tariffs that they can't get them. And I feel like that is also a part of the car market's decline, in that all the American shit looks the same. None of it is, even the hybrids aren't great when you compare them to other hybrids. I mean, 600 plus fucking range on some of these other vehicles. Like, man, American shit just it's inferior, and you have to know it. You really have to lie to yourself if you want to believe that Chinese stuff is inferior to ours. And then on top of that, there was this racist ass framing as if like Chinese tech was all about theft, and like reverse engineering in tech is not, it's not really theft in the grand scheme. Stealing schematics, that's theft. Reverse engineering something from a place where you don't have an IP agreement, yeah, that's not really theft. Which is also where corporate espionage and theft really exist. But the American framing, it not only doesn't apply anymore, but there's no American counterpart that's superior enough to be worthy of stealing from. So I think the idea that like, what's China gonna steal the fucking electric Mustang? That bullshit ass car? What, they're gonna steal these Teslas that are falling apart? The fuck is China gonna steal from America at this point? A fucking starship that blows up before it makes it into orbit? Like there's this delusion about China and its inability. Like, you have to assume China is as inept as America for them to be in a place where they would need to steal from America. It it feels so absurd to even say at this point.
Oh,
But
so
so many
so there's a reason that we don't see any Chinese electric vehicles. Earlier this year, NHTSA increases their safety testing requirements. The like cabin intrusion, front impact zones, like crumple zones. There's like they added a bunch of new. There's a list of 37 criteria, um, and what the hell? Yeah, basically it's harder to get a 5-star rating for any vehicle now. But it costs a lot of money to get cars into the program, and then they've got to keep supplying them with vehicles. And yeah, they just made it harder for everyone to get 5-star ratings. So probably, I bet the reason we're not seeing Chinese market vehicles has a lot more to do with like a lack of testing vehicles, and also increased standards for outcomes. Although I'm not really sure. Can is anything safe when it's on the road with a bunch of full size trucks though?
no, and especially not when they're on the road with
Yeah,
semis
like
that are
even
full
full size
loads.
trucks aren't safe on the road with other full size trucks, let alone semis.
We're all at the whims of semis in the wind.
Man, semis in the wind is some weird country metal album that's waiting to
Well, I mean, it, I only said it that way because I think it was maybe 2 or 3 days ago. The wind, it must have been over 20 miles an hour, probably 25 miles an hour. And I had to drive on the highway, and some people were just driving fucking 80, 85 miles an hour as if the the wind was not gusting 25 miles an hour. And then there was semis on the, where I don't know again if these people just don't understand how physics work, which is part of, I think, part of it. Um, but it's also like yeah, they don't care about their lives. So it's also being on the road with someone who doesn't care about themselves is it's very sobering.
Pretty sure that's the standard. In fact, I know that's the
Right. I
standard.
mean, yeah, for sure. But when when you can see from afar that they don't care, I think it's safe to assume that most people don't care. But when somebody's like doing some shit, okay, for example, this guy, I was driving down Walnut in Bloomington, and this guy pulls out, fucking basically pushes me out of my lane and stares at me as if I was the person in the wrong, where I'm like, okay, this guy just clearly is like, he's got a fucking death wish. He like peeled out. So it wasn't like a slow turnout. He comes barreling out in a way where, because I was aware, I got out of the way, but he would have hit me if I hadn't gotten out of the way. And again, he looks at me as if I'm the one in the wrong, and he's got a woman in the car, or like a girlfriend. I don't know her age or whatever, but he's like clearly don't give a fuck about himself and is trying to show off for the girl, or driving crazy because they're in an argument. I don't know. But then suddenly I'm in it because he almost hits me. And it's like shit like that where we're, again, like you said, I think everybody should be assumed to be operating in that mode. But when you see it, that's when it's like, oh God, oh yeah, like today, somebody's driving on the fucking highway with their lights off after dark. And I'm like, okay, I don't understand how you can be in the dark on the highway and not realize your lights are off, or they're doing it on purpose. Neither one is good. And one I feel is worse than the other, but it's not really clear which one is worse because they're both terrible, because they can cause a pileup really fast. Or like yesterday, or maybe it was this one, I don't even remember when it was. Somebody was like going 40 miles an hour on the highway when the speed limit is 70, when they were like trying to find their exit, but they're in the like
Wrong
lane.
lane.
They're in the lane that's one from the farthest to the left, and there's two lanes that they need to cross to get to the exit, going 40 miles an hour. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Like, they just must not, they must not have ever had the bubble burst around them where they don't realize that the world exists beyond 20 feet around them, and they don't understand how fast cars are moving and how long it takes for cars to stop. And this person is going 40 fucking miles an hour.
Not just how long it takes cars to stop, but how long it takes people to realize that their thing in front of them
Right.
isn't traveling at
Yes.
speed.
Exactly. Exactly. All of these things. And seeing it is one thing to see those videos where I know you've probably come across it, where that fucking, there's a couple assholes in Ohio who completely came to stops trying to get to their exit, like 2 lanes over, and then tried to cross and cause accidents behind them. They didn't even get fucking hit. So this is where those people especially irritate me, because a lot of times they don't even end up being the ones who get hit because of their dumbass shit, and then they just fucking mosey on, and then you have to explain to the cop that some asshole has stopped right in front of you and hope somebody got it on camera. So it's like that type of shit. I really can't stand driving on the road with Americans, but it's also, I don't trust green lights. I don't trust red lights. And I always have to pay attention to like the speeds of the drivers approaching the lights. Cause god damn it, if you don't do that shit, you're gonna get T-boned here. Like, not just here, anywhere in America. Like, for one reason or another. And it's it's like, man, just do roundabouts, fucking bro. Come on, man. We don't need to have intersections anymore. Intersections are dumb. Intersections should never have existed. It's the dumbest fucking shit. Like, this is the type of shit where it feels like intersections were designed just so people get into accidents so they have to go to mechanics. Knowing that the cars are going to break down anyway, but it's like, oh, if we have intersections, they'll get into accidents more often and the mechanics will have better job security. And it's like, you really have to try hard to T-bone somebody in a roundabout. In an intersection, that shit can happen any, like, just one person isn't paying attention for like half a second. So this city and interstate design that we have, if we're gonna keep making it so that it's based around cars, we really gotta like come to terms with how fucking stupid some of this shit is. A lot of this shit, like, and for example, the lanes where people exit and enter at the same time on the highway, that shit's dumb as fuck. That is dumb as fuck. I'm seeing accidents basically every day at those things because it's just dumb design. It don't have to be that way. And so just because we like have dumb design doesn't mean we need to keep accepting dumb design as Americans. I know it's tempting. And it's tempting, like, we've had stoplights since before we were born. But stoplights and intersections are such old technology. If we want to be like, oh yeah, that's over 100-year-old technology, both of those things, we should update our like the way that we weave cars with each other if we're going to not have public transit accessible and we're going to be a car-based society. We can engineer out T-bones.
I would like to see a world where everything exists on some like raised level where there are no cars because cars all travel on the lower level, and that's where the parking is. And it's all extremely well lit. Nothing's actually underground. There's just big platforms above everything where everyone actually interacts and coexists. And, you know,
have you been to Las Vegas?
I've not, but I've seen plenty of pictures of.
That's how Las Vegas operates. If you cross the intersection on foot on the car level, you probably are going to get a ticket. And they have overpasses, like covered overpasses is not exposed to the elements, and all the overpasses keep you on a separate level as a pedestrian from the vehicles.
Yeah.
And then you don't have people getting hit by cars.
Well, that's like parts of parts of China, like Hong Kong and Guangzhou, I think, have parts of it where like there are entire, or maybe it's just Hong Kong, where they have entire like, civic areas or whatever that are just no vehicles in sight, because if you walk over to that thing, you look down, you realize you're like 10 stories up in the air. And you really can't even see the street below because there's so much stuff like between you and the ground floor, I guess. And it's all seamless too. Like you don't even notice. You don't even think it's like, oh yeah, I'm way up high in the air. You can't even tell. That's a masterful of like, planning and engineering when like entire structures can just be built into the landscape so seamlessly that you don't even realize that you're on top of something. It's like the opposite of cities in America where there are elevation changes where you absolutely know that you've walked like 2 miles up a hill I'm talking about like San Francisco and Seattle specifically, but
Oh yeah. Well, and it is great when a city can use multiple levels. For example, there's a walkway here that is below the street, um, and you see it when you drive over it, and you're like, how the fuck do you get access to it? But it's like the way they blocked it and cordoned it off. You can't really just like walk into it, but that's because the earth is then a wall. So then when you're on the path, you can't hear vehicles at all. It's down a level below all the noise, so it's basically insulated from all of the noise pollution at like car level. And seeing how that works, it does make me long for a more vertically integrated city that's also horizontally distributed. But yeah, we're Americans just are not good at vertical integration. And it's all either two dimensional or straight up. There's not there's not really.
like those like the future cities, they were just shaped like giant cones, and they they go up. There's like suspended gardens and malls, and of course there's always like the people who live up at the top and the people who live close to the ground floor, and everyone looks like they're in some weird version of Logan's Run. That kind of architecture.
The arcologies, yeah,
Yeah.
from Sin City, 3000. Yeah, which it
That stuff
looks
looks
cool.
cool. It looks
Yeah,
so cool.
it's not like it doesn't look cool. I'm not trying to say it doesn't look cool.
Yeah, but it's just like a really nice, clean version of Zion from the Matrix.
But also, if you take that thing and then expand it out from the center and like bring it down some, then it's like something completely different. Even though it could function as the same.
Yeah.
But then we see like the Neon projects, that shit don't work because there's a capitalist motive behind
Plus,
it.
they tried to
So-
make a giant mirror in the desert that would divide like an entire region. You just cut it in half. That was like the weirdest vanity project. I remember watching videos about it, thinking like, yeah, these guys are crazy. What the hell are they even thinking? Gonna build a giant structure out in the desert. Oh yeah, everything's gonna be within walking distance of itself because there's gonna be that much commerce going on in this thing. They're gonna move the entire population of Saudi Arabia into one big apartment complex, like one giant government housing complex. Seriously.
well, and they murdered somebody who was saying ahead of time that it wasn't feasible and was coming out with the reports, and then lo and behold, they just have to fucking cancel it anyway. So it's like, yeah, you just murdered this dude for nothing and had to cancel that shit anyway. Like this is the type of shit where these these people want to feign as if they're the top of intellectual prowess, but they just got lucky and born in a long line of sycophantic exploitative people who were willing to sell their brothers and their sisters for whatever it was, because all the that's the only way that shit ever works. Or you go and sell the neighboring shit, and that's what happened with a lot of the native shit. Is like you find out, oh, they go and make a deal with one tribe to sell the land of the other tribe, and then they show up and are like, oh, We brought your land rights from this other people and that type of shit. Yeah, you can play people against each other and that shit happens. But anytime that's part of any part of a culture, they're not going to be able to build megalithic structures, and they're not going to be able to build neomes, and they're not going to be able to build fucking pyramids and
So
shit
when
like
I
that.
say to Google, the line construction project was a complex money laundering scheme. It says this is just a rumor and it's unsubstantiated. But when I enter, Project Neom was a construction project was a complex money laundering scheme. It does not say that.
I mean, I don't even think it was a money laundering scheme necessarily so much as it was never, ever feasible.
Sure,
It was
but
always as feasible as Akon City.
when I enter it as Project Neom, it doesn't deny it. When I enter it as the line, it denies it.
That's a good way to get around the AI. But I'm also, this is where people who believe in capitalism think that money can solve any problem. Even if engineers are like, actually, we don't have enough resources and no amount of money can get you enough resources to do this. They're like, no, we'll get $1 trillion, and $1 trillion will get us the line. No, it won't. No amount of slaves, no amount of money, no amount of hope can overcome physics.
It might not even be that money wouldn't solve it. It's that they don't even know how to get through the first like 5 steps to get to the 6th step where the 7th or the solution exists. Some of these things don't have solvable problems right now. We're just not thinking the right way. We're stuck within our own paradigm. We're only familiar with so many things, and so things that are outside of that box are just going to be like easily rejected. Although I'm pretty sure that when the time comes for citizens to hand over their physical currency and switch over to digital currency, everyone's going to be real on board with it. I only say that because of the way that it seems that cryptocurrency was so just completely misunderstood.
Right? I mean, they they took all people. They tried to take people's gold over amounts of 10K and took the dollar off the gold standard. So it definitely is in the realm of possibility of trying to change how people perceive currency, and it's already worked with Bitcoin to a degree.
Well, I think everyone who's using the wallet on their phone to make
Right? Yeah.
purchases at the convenience store, or the gas, or the grocery store, or Walmart, even, they're already on board. They've
Right. The
already signed
banks. The banks had already successfully they had already successfully converted everyone to digital currency, whether they knew it or not. There was just this veneer of physical currency because you could always take out $600.
Yeah, cash still exists,
Right.
but
People are realizing that banks don't have just giant vaults of money sitting around anymore. That's not like a thing.
guys, we're running out of cash. Open up a new stack.
they're like servers, and yeah, they take cash in, but their servers aren't like they are networks, and the local branches don't hold the cash the way that like Starbucks doesn't keep all their cash that an individual store keep. Like
Starbucks
they
is
make all their money and then deposit it somewhere else. Like banks do the
imagine
same
if Starbucks
shit.
kept all of their beans in one location.
Right.
It just sounds absurd. Like,
Yeah, I mean, but then it sounds absurd, but like they've kept up the veneer of a cash vault to keep banks from being liquidated, basically, because that's when they had the run on. Remember when there was a run on Wells Fargo and Wells Fargo was freaking out? It's because they didn't have all the cash on hand that they say that they're fucking have customers for, and that was like the whole entire United States operates like this. But this is why the U.S. government started stealing fucking Venezuelan oil rigs, is because this whole country's broke. They just are not admitting it. This entire country's broke. I promise this entire country is broke.